Good.
Welcome to a monumental Wisdom and Knowledge 5. We have three great guests today. Matt Landman of Actual Activist, Frankenskies is his documentary, fresh off of Coast to Coast last week. And also, he just came back from Scotland not that long ago, and he's going back there. Ian Ball in Montreal, who, is an engineer. He, really knows what's going on in the world. His claim to fame is doing COVID curfew breaking videos during. No, I'm kidding. But you were doing that. You were standing up for an absurd rule, so to speak. So welcome, Ian. We love your expert opinion. And Allyson Allard, self-sabotage coach, who really truly understands how the world is run and what is going on and how to take care of your health. So welcome, everyone.
Hi, Mark.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Mark.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yes. Ian, why don't we start with you?
Sure. And I think today's topic is we're getting in the topic of geoengineering. And first of all, I just want to say that I feel very honored to be among both Mark and Allyson. I watched the videos, of course, Frankenskies, and Allyson. I recognize your great contributions as well. So my entrance into the world of geoengineering was quite an interesting one. Back in 2005, I had moved back to Montreal. I had been working in Ontario, and at that time, I have a longtime friend who was always ahead of the curve in terms of, so-called conspiracies. And he told me about this I came back to Montreal, we met up, and he explained to me that, he said, Ian, did you realize that they're spraying nanoparticles in the sky? And I said, Ron, that's very interesting, but that's a whole new line there I haven't ever heard about. And said, well, you just have to look in the sky, and when they'll crisscross the sky, and sometimes they'll even do a big X in the sky for some particular reason. And he gave me a little bit of a background, because he's got a biochemistry background, so he really understands the chemical side of what's being sprayed. So where I started working in Montreal at that time, it was the office, the first time in my career that I actually had a window view. I had been in cubicles for the previous 10 years of my career, and so finally I had a window view, and it was quite a vast view of the sky. And I just remember working one day, and I was just looked out the window, and lo and behold, I see this big X going across, a plane going across and creating an X in the sky, and this grid that was forming, and this trail had persisted for the whole time I was in the office. So it just clicked. I mean, I was already quite advanced in my research in other areas, of course, 9/11 and the bankers and a few other issues, and regarding nutrition as well, by the way. So I quickly delved into this, and it didn't take me long to discover that there was a program that was happening. And I think I even tied into Dane Winnikin at that time. I think he had already started reporting, and that just started from there. And I had been observing the skies very carefully. I've been following the various researchers out there, and also trying as much as possible to educate people and hopefully open their eyes so that they can do their own research into this area. And through my trips in North America and Europe, like in Montreal, there's some bad days, but we don't get a full grid across the sky. When I was traveling into the States, I remember either it was Pennsylvania or one time in Virginia, I was absolutely shocked at the grid that was in the sky. It was horrifying. And in Europe, going through the Alps and seeing that there was trails and there as well was quite disappointing, but not surprising. So I'm just continue to keep abreast with it, and I'll leave the floor for someone else. But that's kind of my introduction to my first experience and to the subject.
What year was that? Can I ask when you noticed it out the window?
2005, because I moved back to
Wow.
Montreal like in 2005. And, you know, and then I
Almost
was
20
also
years ago.
researching the patents on it as well, right? The patents. And then there were some whistleblowers like that lady, what's her name from the Navy? Gosh, she was amazing whistleblower.
Kristen Megan.
Yes, thank you. Thank you,
Mhm.
Mark.
Yeah.
She was such an amazing whistleblower, and she really paid the price for it. She came later on, but yeah, I was back in 2005 that I really took notice and then started to delve deep into the subject.
Matt, why don't you chime in here, you know, with what is going on in the world and your expertise?
Hi, thanks, Mark. So there's a lot going on in the chemtrail space. Where to begin? Allyson recommended I start at the very beginning. That would be like the 1920s, where my film Frankenskies starts off, and they start sharpening their tools to get to where they're at. By the 1960s, the Ho Chi Minh Trail was being flooded through the Operation Project Popeye, and that's when cloud seeding became like very common knowledge across the board. The UN had to meet, and they voted 62 countries, I believe, to 0 that weather warfare was to be banned, because you never know what's going to happen upstream, downstream, different countries get involved and all that sort of stuff. But it all kind of got swept under the rug, it seems, so that the global elites could control the weather, and control the weather, you can control the world. You know, why, you know, at one point it's crazy because so we're talking about chemtrails and geoengineering. Those two are somewhat synonymous. Chemtrails is aerosol deployment, you know, deployment of aerosols for different means. You know, you can bring lithium on the population, pacify them, manganese to make them aggravated, or you could be engineering weather, which is weather engineering. Geoengineering is similarly termed, but it's overall geoengineering is manipulating Earth's climate to essentially dim the sun. That's like the common knowledge, but there's like ocean acidification, tampering, and all that sort of stuff. But so I digress. So it's really interesting that in newspaper clippings, you can look back in like the 60s and 70s, and cloud seeding was very common knowledge in the newspaper back then. Cloud seeding nowadays is not common knowledge, and now it's being introduced to the public in a normalization attempt through Dubai, you know, and why that's being put to the mainstream now. It's probably because geoengineering is going to come to the forefront. People need to be normalized to the ongoing lines in their sky, so they don't wake up to that it's been going on for, you know, a while kind of thing. But it's fascinating. The newspaper articles from the past, they would talk about people vote for cloud seeding and farmers seed their clouds. Farmers would even seed passing clouds over their crops with not just silver iodide, or they used frozen carbon dioxide. Dry ice is a good cloud seed. But farmers started realizing that they could seed clouds with minerals that they needed on their crops. So if their crops are short on potassium, they freaking seed clouds with potassium, or, you know, whatever they needed, which is really fascinating too. So it was that common knowledge that they're like, we're going to spray the minerals we need, the chemicals we need in the sky, and particulates are going to be the seeds, and make it rain. And we're going to get rainwater with the minerals that we need on our crops. And then
When
fast
was that?
forward 70s,
The
60s and
70s.
70s.
I'm trying to get like
60s
a
and 70s.
timeline in my head here. Okay.
Yeah, and even in Alberta, I don't know if you know about this one, Ian, but in Alberta, it was common knowledge one generation ago, they engineered storms to have smaller hail. So the Canadian government came together, and all the farmers knew, because they were getting hit with some big hailstorms impacting the farms. And so they, I was on a Canadian radio show more central to Canada than, I mean, in the middle of the country, but they were saying it was common knowledge a generation ago. So it's interesting how that all got swept under the rug. And then, and real quick, and then fast forward, here we are now, and April 2nd, a few weeks ago, they had this experiment to normalize geoengineering chemtrails. So what's happened is the mainstream media is telling the world that we have a solution to global warming or climate change, and it's dimming the sun with atmospheric aerosol injections. They say that it has not happened yet, that the lines in the sky that we see are persistent condensation trails from hot air jets, which we can talk about, that's totally nonsense. And it goes back to even being mind controlled via 9/11. It's all connected, which it's important to have all these minds together talk about this, because all these puzzle pieces are very fascinating. But where we're at now is this normalization attempt of geoengineering as a good thing for the world. And so first they came through the media about a decade ago. So to back up, there's this geoengineering consortium meeting of civil society actors. Now, the word civil society actors has actually the definition has changed on the internet. I used to
Oh,
look it up on Google.
yeah, it
And it
doesn't
was
sound
one
good.
thing. No,
Actors.
it's no
Mine's
bueno.
civil.
They're actors. Before, you could look it up on the internet on Google, and it would pop up right there, and it would say non-governmental participants in society that manifest the will of the public. Non-governmental participants in
NGO.
society, yeah, exactly, that manifest the will of the public. So there's players in the public, like actors and whatnot, that are either controlled op or actually meteorologists or news anchors, whatever, that are manifesting the will of the public. And I found this minutes of this meeting from 2012. And it was a geoengineering consortium meeting, and I printed it out. It's linked on my website,
Is this an
actualactivist.com.
annual? Do
Yeah,
do they
annual
do it
meeting.
annually?
Mm-hmm.
Where do they do it?
Yeah.
Or
DC,
does it change?
Washington, D.C. every year. Yeah.
DC.
Uh-huh.
And so if you go to my website, actualactivist.com, the most poignant meeting 2012 is linked in there in the geoengineering chemtrail section. But I always bring this up in my presentations because they literally came together and they said, society is lousy at strategy, because we're so divided and they divide us through the media, but we are not talking about themselves. So here we've decided to introduce geoengineering as a lousy idea through the media. We're going to introduce it to the public as a bad idea just to table it and get the conversation going. But then eventually we'll turn it around and say, well, this lousy idea is actually our our only choice to save us from our carbon emissions and our exhalations, that we do all day.
So it's like a reverse psychology thing. Like,
Exactly. So
th-
exactly. So the media started coming out with this idea of geoengineering, but it's a horrible idea, but
right.
it's something that we should put on the table, but it could kill a lot of people. And they first started talking about it as spraying sulfur in the atmosphere, mimic a volcanic eruption. But they said it might make acid rain and it could kill a lot of people and it's really dangerous. So the narrative started with sulfur to get the conversation going. Then the mainstream media said we could spray diamond dust in the sky, but it's going to be really expensive. It's going to cost taxpayers a lot of money, and the diamonds might fall out of the sky and not work very well to deflect sunlight back into space, to like dim the sunlight that we get, which is just nuts altogether. We need sunlight for so many reasons: plants, everything, agriculture, humans, you name it. And then they said we're going to spray mirrors in the sky, but we can't get them to stick very well. We can't figure it out. This is all science saying this in the mainstream. This is 2 decades of
Can
nonsense
I ask
narrative.
a question?
Yeah.
Do you think that there are any people that are involved in these meetings that actually think they're doing a good thing? They're
Oh, that's a
brainwashed
good
and they
point.
think that they're trying to help the world. These are not necessarily all evil people. Is that
These are great
possible?
questions. Yeah, I've thought
Okay.
about this question, and it's a great question, and I've had to come to terms with this one. And the answer is the same answer as the potential if there's chemtrail pilots nowadays. A lot of them are drones now, but there's someone steering
Yeah.
something. Someone's in the know, and it's 3 things: compartmentalization is military tactics, compartmentalization, need to know basis, and I forget the third thing, but basically they're being told that they're doing something good for the world. They think
Yeah.
that they're saving the world. So really, you know, it's
It's
through the compartmentalization and need to know basis that they don't really know what's actually going on. Yeah.
it's like doctors and nurses. It's the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
When you
just a
were
few
talking,
weeks ago, real quick, just a few weeks ago, and I'll be totally done for a
no,
second. They did an experiment officially through the New York Times, and they said, we've got it. The diamond dust isn't going to work as very well, or the sulfur, or the whatever else they said they might spray. But we have a solution potentially, and it's salt. So they did an actual experiment a few weeks ago and sprayed salt in the atmosphere, whitened the sky, made fake clouds with salt off an aircraft carrier, and they kept it all hush hush because they didn't want anybody protesting, because they were going to do a similar experiment in 2018. Protesters got all involved in Tucson and stopped that. We in Tucson stopped an experiment that was supposed to happen in 2018, which was a really big deal. But now they did it anyways. So here we are, and the normalization campaign is afoot, but people are waking up fast too. So that's cool.
I was just going to add, in terms of the let's say the normalization of chemtrails and geoengineering. They tried early on. Well, they've been trying, of course, for some time. Just by the fact that they'll make sure they put it in images in films or in advertisements. That, one way they tried to normalize it. But they also try to use geeky scientists who they got under their payroll, basically to kind of get that message out. For example, David Keith. And remember, I actually had, because he's actually
Canadian.
He's Canadian, exactly. And I actually had exchanges with him back in 2013, and I was challenging his what he was presenting, because he was on this science show in Canada called Quirks and Quarks by Bob McDonald, going on for years and years. And so he did an interview with David Keith, and I sent both him and also Bob McDonald, try to challenge him on what they were presenting. But they used the face of David Keith, and he's been quite extensively involved in trying to give a scientific, this is what we should be doing. We should be putting the sulfur in, and here's the risk benefits, and so forth. He goes through all these explanations, and and by the way, he actually, you'll never guess, would probably guess very easily, who one of his main financiers are in the field of geoengineering. And
Forbes magazine, I believe they even did a article, and it said the sugar daddy of geoengineering, and they had a picture of Bill Gates. They call him the sugar daddy of geoengineering. And so not Bill Gates, Melinda Gates Foundation, but private Bill Gates money goes directly from Bill Gates to David W. Keith of Calgary, who's a Harvard professor.
Yeah, professor.
And then he's the little puppet that goes
Doesn't
around
it just
saying,
seems like he's like the scapegoat for everything? Like he's the scapegoat for everything.
Yeah, well, we're brainwashed.
I wouldn't even be surprised if he didn't even exist at this point. And he was just like AI or something. Like, is this even a person? It wouldn't even surprise me.
Allyson, through Hollywood, we're programmed that we have to have some boogeyman to hate and feed that energy, because we have to be really scared. And if we didn't have that, then we'd freaking stick up for ourselves. You know what I mean?
Now, one thing, Matt, I wanted to ask you, is another talking head that actor, scientist, Bill Nye? I'm just curious because, growing up in high school, like my junior year, I switched over to public school. So our earth science class was composed of watching Bill Nye videos. And lo and behold, when I'm working, in the big pharma industry in LA, who comes into the pharmacy that I'm working at is Bill Nye. He lived in the neighborhood. And I'm like, hey, Bill. He's like, happy third. Business before I was ignorant, and actually had conversations with him, but before knowing who he really is. But does he promote this too, do you think?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they're all up in it.
I was gonna say so.
They're all up in it, and he's played his part in the whole game. What's fascinating is how bought the meteorologists are.
Oh, yeah.
I've been trying to analyze
this is a good, I'm interested in hearing this because it makes me wonder, about local ones even. Are they really buying into this lie, or do they just go along with it for the paycheck? Or like Jason says, maybe they're under paycheck mind control, where they're just not even going to think about it because it would cost them their job to think about that, to challenge it.
It's all scripted. In my movie Frankenskies, there's a bit, I think it's even from Conan O'Brien, but there's different bits that are making. I think there's one that's America is a great democracy or whatever or something. But either way, there's different bits that make fun of news anchors saying the exact same thing across the
Yeah,
I
I've
board.
seen
remember
that.
that well.
In,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen it.
in
seen
my
it a million
movie,
times.
in my movie, it's every child is a child's happiness is priceless on their birthday. A child's happiness is priceless on their birthday,
That's
and
right.
they all
Yeah.
say the exact same words every single. So it's like it starts to prove and show across the country, even probably the world, the anchors are handed a script and they're told to read it because they need the mind control to be across the board. So everyone believes in dinosaurs and all this shit together. You know what I mean? It's all got to be the same. Pardon my French. I'll stay away. So check out this whole thing. Then we can go back to meteorologists. So I was analyzing like, how did we get here? Like people can walk outside and see a grid pattern and not think, right? They're just, oh no, that's normal. So on 9/11, it was actually fascinating. So we talked a little bit off the air. Like we're all from the East Coast. I know Ian, you're from Canada, but we're East Coast Americans, and
Yes.
we're all around the same age, and we experienced 9/11 probably somewhat similarly. I had gone down to rural Virginia Tech, but just for that semester, I came back home to DC. I was living in the DC area, and my girlfriend was going to Pace University, which is right next to the Twin Towers in New York. So I had both things going on. I was, where the DC and New York, and at the time, I was not. I had, the word conspiracy. We got to flip that on its head. I was not a truther. The way these words are true, and they shouldn't be, but they trigger me. They should trigger everybody. Sorry. Even the word chemtrails is like people are still hitting me up saying, don't use the word. And I'm like, can we get past that? It's like they're telling us they're gonna do it. Can we get past the verbiage? It's just like,
yeah,
that's
they
why
try
in
to
the beginning
control
those,
the wording, right? Yeah, they try to control
yeah, it's very it's
the
smart.
messaging. Yeah.
It's smart. So on 9/11, I was glued to the television. I was like trading stocks at the time, and I was like up early that morning, and the stock market like got shut, and I was like, "What the heck's going on?" I remember I was on AOL Instant Messenger talking about it. Doesn't matter. I got told, and I got turned on the TV, and I was glued to the TV right after the first plane hit. So when the second plane hit, and when the 2 towers fell, and what really got me was people jumping out of the buildings to their death right there in front of me, right? They were jumping out of the buildings, dying right in front of me. And I cried in front of the TV. I was trying to call my girlfriend. The lines were frozen in New York. And like, I cried. I was traumatized. My
You
mind
got
was
MK
yes,
Ultra mind controlled.
trauma-based mind control.
Yeah.
And while I'm watching this, and I think maybe me and Mark talked about this before, but I think it's really important, is during that, while I was watching that, they said, oh, the jet fuel is burning so hot that they had to jump out the windows. And the building fell because the jet fuel was burning so hot, And then we heard the word jet fuel 5,000 times over the next 2 months. And I got so entrained in my head that jet fuel burns so hot, jet fuel, so much jet fuel. These planes are full of jet fuel, so much jet fuel. And so anytime I would look at the sky subconsciously, I'd be like, oh yeah, jet fuel is burning so hot that's condensation trails from the hot air. Okay. Come to find out, these engines are very advanced since the 1960s. Okay. They were outfitted by General Electric, then Rolls-Royce, and General Electric, and now Rolls-Royce keeps this like closed loop system. They outfit them, they maintain them. They are 2 tons of titanium and steel. They smashed into the Pentagon, didn't even break the windows, and just disappeared into thin air. But that's another story. And then these things are very efficient turbines of spinning air. They spin air like a propeller would. Basically, you take away the casing, and it's a big ass propeller spinning and creating like a vortex, creating lift, so that the plane can fly. Okay, it creates lift over that wing. So if you really dig and look into it, that plane is not fuel. It's not full of jet fuel like we were told. Okay, and probably like I just flew to Europe, and I was looking everywhere for one gassing up thing. There wasn't a single thing, and they come up to the plane with these big battery chargers. They literally come up with a big battery charger, and they're charging some big battery in the plane. So there's probably batteries running on electricity, and a little bit of jet fuel was used to take off and land. But the wings are not all full of jet fuel like they say, and and the plane up there is not burning all this hot jet fuel. It's just like a propeller creating lift over a wing. But imagine everybody being told that there was so much jet fuel that these people were jumping to their deaths in these planes, and the whole world changed after that. Like we lost our rights. We had to go to kill Osama bin whoever, and then Iraq, who knows why, and all this stuff. Everything changed, and still we're over there. now we're going to Iran. It's just nuts. But like, think about the normal, like my grandmother, the normal person. They see those lines in the sky, and they were MK Ultra, just like everybody. We're still trying to snap out of it. I was in like a deep meditation the other day, like not thinking about this at all, like with candlelight, just like chilling. And like, I literally envisioned myself and glued to that TV being like, dang, jet fuel burns hot. Like, wow, it's so hot. Like, it took down that whole building. Think about it. Just saying. What do you think,
I feel like
Allyson?
everybody has a different memory about 9/11 because I don't that never stuck with me at all. I don't it didn't. I don't know. And I'm a little bit older than you. I just I don't know.
Yeah, you're in Maine. You're probably snowshoeing or something.
Yeah, me.
No, I wasn't.
I'm kidding.
I
It's
wasn't
September.
outdoorsy. I'm way more outdoorsy now than I was then, but
Uh,
I
having a-
guess I just listened to the general story. You know what actually was Sandy Hook? That one is what made me cry.
Mm.
That one made me
I
cry
cried during Sandy Hook too. They
because
said
I
the
have
children were
children
hiding in the cabinets. The children were hiding in the cabinets.
and they
The
showed
children
their
were hiding in the
faces over and
cabinets.
over and over again. And
Yeah.
not to go off on a segue on that, but that's the one that really hit me. And I have two kids, and one of them was around the same age, 6 years old. They were saying so.
yeah,
I get
I
Sandy Hook
actually
ads all the
had an
time.
inside scoop on that one because my brother-in-law, his aunt, was a teacher in that area.
Newtown?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And yeah, he confirms that that school was abandoned. It was abandoned. It was not even open. It was an abandoned school. Yeah.
Isn't it interesting that none of us, I don't know what Mark thinks, but have talked about this at all before we just talked about it, and we all already agree on it.
Oh yeah,
You know what
I,
I mean?
incredible.
Well, it's a really sensitive subject too, though, because you try to like, I've got people that I'm really close to, and I try to bring this one up, and they're willing to talk about a lot of stuff. But this one's very. And did you see how Alex Jones spun it? He came out and was like, "Actually, never mind. Let them sue the crap out of me. It's out of control." I get ads on my YouTube every day that is the Sandy Hook dad being like, "Ban AR," like it's total
Jeez.
propaganda piece, but.
Mhm.
That one's really hard, and sometimes we got to pick our battles, but it's really great when you're on that frequency of truth.
Yeah.
I like to say this: when you start to elevate and vibrate to a frequency of truth. That's why people are like, "Why is chemtrails so important, Matt?" It's not just chemtrails; it's the
Nope.
frequency of truth. You get on that
Yes.
vibration of truth, and other truths become self-evident, and you become
good.
like it's about gaining back your sovereignty. You become unrulable when you are not resonating with falsehoods. You know what I mean? And I think that's like the kind of like our journey here, kind of just to shed
Yep.
all that darkness baggage kind of thing.
I mean,
Yeah.
I remember, just I have a friend of mine who's also a good friend and colleague, and we graduated the same year. Both of us had a structural engineering kind of a part of our engineering training was structural engineering. And it's interesting because, I saw it just like about a year later after all the, literally the dust settled that, okay, it became pretty clear to me, but it was only back in 2000 and like only about 5 years ago that my friend and I were driving up north to give a workshop. So I had all this time to talk to him, and all these years, right? He's he's as equally understands structure that he only just caught on. But the interesting thing, when he had that awareness and that kind of sudden enlightenment, he is full board. It's like it just goes to say what you're saying, Matt. It's almost like the potential there for that frequency awakening is there. When people have the openness to allow it to enter their mind, and then they start to look elsewhere besides 9/11. He starts to look
Yes.
elsewhere and see all the connecting dots.
This makes me think of when I was a little kid and I point blank asked my mom if Santa Claus was real when I was 9, and I put her on the spot, and and she had to tell me because of the way I posed the question to her. And right after she told me, it was literally seconds when I connected the dots, and then I knew that there was no Easter Bunny and no Tooth Fairy either. Like literally like that. And it's just like that. It's just like that. As soon as you figure out one big lie, now you can figure out all the big lies. So,
Mm, good point.
Yeah.
Once that option is available, it's kind
mhm.
of like it's like we live in this duality, polarity, but it's all lies on both sides, you know. And once the light can get shined in and give us the other option, the truth becomes self-evident. It's like letting that lion out of the cage. That's all you got to do, right?
Yeah. Now, do you see, Matt, with the chemtrails and with your awareness? Well, first off, talk about how it was like being over there in Scotland, and you're going right back to Scotland very soon. What was the, attitude towards it like over there compared to here?
Oh yeah, let's talk about the Scotland trip, and then also after that, I'd love Ian and Allison. I'd like to get your take on the way that the media handled this weather engineering in Dubai. It seems like
Yes, so we have to
they had
touch
to,
on that.
yeah, they could have swept it under the rug. They could have done it different ways, but now everyone knows that they did it that way, and it's like it's an exact science. Cloud seeding is a certain way. They did it on purpose. They flooded it on purpose. Like, why and why did it get the attention it did, and now the cat's out of the bag, and I even saw headlines like, if they're going to do it, then we have to do it, because now if they're going to do it, we have to get involved, because now it's like the gold rush of this technology kind of thing. You know what I mean? There's a lot of different articles that I saw that came out that could, yeah, it's kind of interesting, weird. So Scotland, I hadn't traveled since before the lockdowns, because that time got weird and I wasn't about to get on a plane during then, and it just got, I can't even tell you. I used to travel a lot, and now because of all that, like I didn't even want to like schedule a conference or schedule like a screening, because I used to do a lot of activist stuff, like taking my movie around and doing these things. But after all of that nonsense with the lockdowns, I hadn't traveled. I didn't have. I was always afraid something was going to happen. So glad I snapped out of that. And the people of this, so there's a group in Scotland, Stop Geoengineering Scotland, and they're active, which is beautiful, because there's not very many active anti-geoengineering groups out there. And so they had gone and spoken at different little rallies and stuff, I think, but they'd never had like a Stop Chemtrails, Stop Geoengineering rally of their own. Like, so Scotland had never had an anti-geoengineering rally, and so they did, and it was in the capital city, Edinburgh, and the English say Edinburgh, and it looks like Edinburgh, and so there's a lot of ways to mess that up and look like a total American. But even the word aluminum, it isn't. They say aluminium, and like even my accent, like the real. So the higher up in Scotland you get, the more it's just like Gaelic, and you can't understand the word they're saying. They're such a sweet people, and they're hilarious. And I couldn't believe, number one, there's a great turnout. Two, I always am expecting some sort of like conflict or something. Everybody was so excited to meet me, like I was a celebrity. Like they were lining up to take their photo with me, the maker of Frankenskies, and people. There were musicians and poets and speakers. We had, and I put the footage up on BitChute and Facebook. Of the whole day. It was like a 3-hour long conference. Oh, so get this. They had like this engineered rain. They hadn't seen the sun for 12 weeks. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Going into it, I was checking the weather and I was like, it's going to freaking rain. I'm going out there. We're going to get rain. Nobody's going to come. It's going to be a nightmare. It's going to be a waste of my time and energy and whatever, but I'm just going to try anyways. Let's do this. So I'm checking the weather and it's like 100% chance to rain, 100% chance to rain, 100% chance to rain. And I'm like leading into it. I'm like, we're screwed, right? Literally the night before, the sky like started to open, and it was like all chemtrails still. And then the morning of, it was like sprinkling, and right when we had the rally, the sky opened up. It was blue. People came and we got like sun. It was beautiful. We had musicians and speakers, and I was passing out t-shirts, stickers, DVDs, and all this stuff. And then 3-hour long rally. Halfway through, the chemtrail planes came and like so many beautiful chemtrails, because we were like and see, because everyone was speaking about it, and like there were people there that were there's children, there's people on the fence and whatever, and we were like, and now they're gonna zap the sky and make it into these little ripples because they're bringing in this haze, and we watched it all map out. Not that it was a good thing, but it was beautiful to have it as to show people, to be witness to it, and it was a great success. There was I went also to the Netherlands on this trip, and I was shocked that everywhere I went, there was one common theme, anti the war with Palestine. Everybody, everywhere, even where I live, everywhere that I went on my trip, there was one common theme. Nobody wants this war. And I thought that was really fascinating, because I thought different countries might. I didn't even expect other countries to be protesting it like they are here. Like here,
No, yeah.
I see a lot of protesting of it here, but it was like in multiple languages, different walks of life, everybody's against this freaking war, and you won't see that on TV. But yeah, the people are waking up. There's still this like slow but steady momentum regarding chemtrails, and I wrote this speech and I gave this speech, and now I'm like perfecting it, and I'm going to be going back because there's two major cities in Scotland, Glasgow and Edinburgh, and
I
so the
think you were
capital.
practicing it. I think I watched an interview with you, Mark,
Yeah,
right?
that
And
was
you
the
were
first. Yeah,
practicing
that
the
was the first
speech
one that you were doing. Yeah,
like
Yeah,
a
I was
couple
trying to
months
get
it
it.
was
ago,
great.
right?
Yeah, I was trying to get
Wasn't
it
it?
dialed in. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I realized that it wasn't very long at that point, and I fixed it up. But now I'm on version 9.0 or whatever, and I'm excited to go back and give the speech again. And I'm realizing this final note, and then we can talk about some more stuff. Geoengineering, Frankenskies, chemtrails, whatever you want to call it, it's very, very similar to Frankenfood, Monsanto, GMO. All of us here, when we were kids, that was not a word. Monsanto was not
No,
a thing. GMO was not a word. It was not even a
No,
topic. Organic
there's
food was
no
not.
food separation at the grocery store.
not
It's
at
just
all.
food. There's
Yeah,
just
right. And so throughout our lives, Monsanto got their little dirty fingers involved in the food supply, and now they're owned by Bayer, so they don't even really
yeah.
exist. The name Monsanto doesn't exist, but they GMO'd some stuff, and activists got involved. People, moms, and people like
Yeah.
normal,
Grassroots.
Farmer
exactly,
out
Mhm.
grassroots
out Western
farmers,
Canada, famous
common
farmer.
folk.
Yeah.
Right. All these people. And they got pretty organized. And there was a march against Monsanto in May.
Yeah.
Right. And it happened for, I think, over a decade. March against Monsanto, every major city in North America, every May. Every May,
It was
every major
solid.
city,
Yeah.
march against Monsanto.
Consistent.
Consistent, persistent.
Yeah.
And they had
Well, it wasn't
educated
on the news,
speakers.
so I didn't know about it. I didn't.
Yeah,
I was
But it
back when I
was
didn't know stuff.
right. I caught the tail end of it. I saw one of the marches in Vancouver, Canada when I was living there, and I was super inspired by them. I don't think that they're still as active, but they got a lot of people involved, and they even merged with other groups like people that were pro bees and all the agriculture things. And there's a lot of turnout, and like they shut down city streets and did marches against Monsanto. And now when you go to the grocery store, it's labeled. If there's a
yeah,
9, it's organic in the barcode. I mean, it is common knowledge enough. I mean, not everybody knows, but it is at that point. Okay. You talk to somebody on the street about chemtrails, they're not going to really know about it. But a lot of people do know about genetically modified food, especially if you're like at an organic grocery store.
Yeah.
We're just at the early stages of it. And so places like Scotland, who are still have that momentum and courage and heart, it's important to lead the way, across, globally across the world. Even that word globally is triggering now. Wow, I
Ugh,
can't even.
exactly.
It's
Mhm.
crazy. It's like say certain words,
You
and
had it. Whoops.
they email me like a couple years later, like, I heard you say this. Did you really believe this? I'm just like, sorry.
No,
yeah.
So
it's
anyway,
just a pro.
I'm just kidding. But it's really important for people to still care. All right, and I
So we can
encourage
make a
everyone.
difference. It's not all
Yeah,
for naught. We can make
no,
a
your
difference.
voice really matters, and it's important to get these things together. What the lockdowns did is it took away a lot of our momentum, but also it locked a lot of people in their homes for a couple years that were not
Yep,
questioning things. And when they got
that's
locked
me.
inside, they started questioning things and they watched
Yep.
Frankenskies, maybe not Allyson, but maybe still will. And we
No,
love
I'll
you.
watch it, I promise.
No, but like a lot of people did. I'm glad that the movie came out in 2017 because I thought that like come 2018 that would be like the peak of like Frankenskies, but really it's still gaining momentum, and you can find it on your trusted platform, BitChute, Odyssey, whatever. It is on YouTube, just not under my name because my whole channel got pulled. But there are people that were able to keep it up. Just for some reason, I was bad for having it up because there's medical
I get the
misinformation.
same thing with my
Yeah,
content, you know.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's like if we say it's medical misinformation, but if someone shares our exact stuff, it's not because
oh, it's
they're just
same. It's
not under that.
right
They're
on
not.
point. Yeah.
They don't have the same
Funny.
platform of.
And Matt, just
Oh,
like the GMOs, that they have different names for chemtrails, solar radiation management, you name it. Because with GMOs now it's saying you walk into Whole Foods, contains a bioengineered ingredient. And
Biofortified is the word now
one
too.
thing that I want
Biofortified.
to talk to you about with the GMOs thing is I was on the forefront because I was living in LA. So we actually had it on the ballot, on the rigged ballot. And of course, Kraft Heinz and all those companies did not want Prop 37 to pass, but I was able to because I was, stupid enough to go back to college. So I was taking college courses at the community college. But not only that, I started a natural health club where I was talking about the AIDS situation, all kinds of natural health things, bringing in homeopathic, doctors and stuff. And I brought in the Prop 37 people, and people were, wanting to hear about this GMOs. And people are now wanting to hear about, chemtrails. Look at one thing that I want you to discuss. What about New Hampshire and most recently Tennessee? Did that pass, or did they just put it on the table for it to pass the bill?
Yeah, these are great topics. The bill, I kind of am a little jaded, Mark,
Okay.
just through my experience as an activist. I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed when I first came into this space a near decade ago. Now, however, and I want to go back to Prop 37 real quick. Were they banning GMOs from being grown in that county?
No, what this is in all of California. No, this was to
Oh,
label
wow.
GMOs.
Oh,
And the
cool.
And
label,
what's
right,
funny is, how the talking heads and the psyops and all that is back then because they had two CEOs of Whole Foods. Back then, the CEO, the co-CEO, Walter Robb, so not the founder, the other guy from California, he goes on one of the biggest talking heads, Dr. Oz, and says, by this year, we're going to label GMOs, So, of course, we're going to label GMOs in our store, whether it contains a GMO or not, which they don't, But one thing they did do is they label all their items that say contains a bioengineered ingredient, which is GMOs. So they did that. But once Amazon took over, it was the Amazon machine. But that's what Prop 37 was. Is they were putting you have to have the non-GMO label, or let them know that it contains a genetically modified ingredient on the label. And that did not pass at all. It was like 37%. It was ridiculous because
that's nonsense.
it was a rigged prop, if you know what I mean.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure.
For the benefit of for the viewers, maybe we should connect the dots between the chemtrails and the GMOs by the fact that one of the chemicals that they spray is a aluminum nanoparticles, and then Monsanto developed their aluminum resistant Roundup Ready, or so they actually produce or genetically modified crops that can resist aluminum in the soil. So there's a connection there that is very much a reality, and that why because you got those like particles, and they've done a lot of testing of soil samples and found the levels of aluminum are 10,000 times higher sometimes than the background level, and so therefore if they can produce, knowing that, they can then modify the crops, use to resist the aluminum, high concentrations of aluminum. So I think that's a worthwhile connection that we should present to the viewers, since we're talking
Yeah.
about both of those subjects. Maybe, Matt, I think you probably have a better understanding, or maybe on that side, but that's my understanding.
Yeah, the aluminum when it and so the primary constituents of the chemtrail aerosols, people have come to through research and even disclosure through NASA. NASA has a chemtrail program called CARE, Charged Aerosol Release Experiment. It's a NASA program. Mark, I'll get back to the New Hampshire, Tennessee thing for sure. I definitely want to talk about that. So people have tested rainwater after they see the lines in the sky. They've done soil samples, cross-reference patents, and also NASA has a whole program with a budget of $80 million a day. They have a chemtrail program, and they spray aluminum, barium, strontium to make noctilucent clouds that look like chemtrails. And so it doesn't take too much digging. It's right there on the surface, really. It's hidden in plain sight. It's aluminum, barium, strontium. So the shorter trails I think there's a barium, the medium trails are strontium, the longer trails are aluminum. And the shorter trails, if you really watch the sky, you'll see that they'll prime the sky with the shorter trails. People are like, oh no, the short ones are contrails, the long ones are chemtrails. That's not true either. There's the short ones are chemicals, the medium ones are chemicals, the long ones are chemicals. They're mixing chemicals in your sky. So the aluminum, it does a lot of damage to the crops. It prevents it. Well, it changes the alkaline level of the soil, and so only certain things can grow in that soil. It gets in the crops and in the trees, and even though they look like they're okay from the outside, they're unable to uptake water. So they get really drought stricken no matter how much water you give them. The aluminum prevents them from uptaking water, similar to humans and the bees.
I was just going to
People
say
get
that.
all
Then what's
dehydrated,
it doing to us if that's what's doing to the plants?
Yeah. So
Plus, is there interaction with the fluoride too? Like the aluminum mixing with the fluoride in that where people are getting the tap water?
both
Something going
neurotoxic.
on there?
Yeah, well, that's great and perfect and definitely all part of it. It's this multi-tiered and it's very smart and diabolical. It's like they know exactly what they're doing. If you see videos of mercury and aluminum mixing together, it's this crazy chemical reaction. Fluoride and aluminum have a very intimate relationship. They come from one another. When Alcoa smelts and melts aluminum and makes it an industrial manufacturing process, the toxic fluoride runoff comes off of the manufacturing process of aluminum. It's a chemical that's bonded to aluminum before. And so the nanofluoride and nano aluminum, if they could get those two things inside the human, which they do, the fluoride's able to bypass the blood-brain barrier. So we have a blood-brain barrier, which we form at around a year and a half years of age. So any of the shots that we get as infants before a year and a half, we shouldn't get because we don't have a blood-brain barrier developed. So I'm not pro-shots, but I'm saying if you're a parent, you're on the fence or whatever, you want some education, some research, the child should have a blood-brain barrier before they are being inoculated with toxins, right? Especially these adjuvants, squalene, aluminum, polysorbate 80, all these horrible things.
I don't think they should get any. None.
No,
zero.
they definitely should not, but they should also be educated on why and when and all these sort of things. And if you
there's
want,
no good time.
You're completely accurate, Allyson. But some people,
I can't be quiet on this.
Some people, they don't want to just hear, no, don't do it. They need to know some information, which is the blood-brain barrier develops at a year and a half. And so when the doctors are like, oh, get your 3-way MMR shot, measles, mumps, and rubella, and you got to get it before the year and a half marker. And then that's when all these adverse reactions are happening and all these sort of things. It's important to know that the child's defense is that blood-brain barrier. Should you be injecting your child with enough toxins to give them complete brain damage and have an autistic child? No, that's a bad idea. But do you need to know why? Yes, I think so.
But I don't want them getting the idea that it's a good idea to do it after a year and a half. Like, oh, do it at 2 or do it at 3. Don't do it, period, ever.
So we have
Take your kid
a
out of
blood-brain
school.
barrier. Yeah, you're right. So we have a blood. No, you're completely
Sorry.
accurate. No, I appreciate that. No, you're totally right, and I think that
And
it's
we have
important.
turned this podcast into CNN talking head arguments. No, I'm joking.
No, we're on the same page. I just think that it's a big waking up factor for moms when they go in and the doctor at 6 months is like, get the MMR, and then you're awake. And like, if you do the research, even watch the movie Vaxxed or anything, get down to the nitty gritty, that MMR is toxic, and the fact that the doctors are pushing it before they even have a blood-brain barrier, that should be suspect. That should make you realize they don't know what the heck they're talking about. So, I mean, and don't give them anything because it's horrible. Especially yourself. Don't give yourself anything. Like if you're
And
lying
you
up,
can solve all of it by having a home birth and not even taking your kid to a pediatrician and finding some kind of a holistic pediatrician if that exists, and then you don't have a problem.
indeed. So yes, you're right. The fluoride, when it gets in the bloodstream through tap water or food or toothpaste or wherever you end up with fluoride in your system, it is already nano sized and can bypass it knows how to get past that blood-brain barrier is my whole point. And so that blood-brain barrier is your
Hard to say.
defense. It's your defense. It keeps the stuff that gets in your bloodstream out of your brain. So say they spray some aluminum in the sky or whatever, you get a little bit in your bloodstream. It's not necessarily going to go straight to your brain. Otherwise, we'd all be walking around Alzheimer's zombies already. But the thing is, the fluoride, it knows how to get into the brain because it knows how to go through the blood-brain barrier. And also EMF radiation can make your blood-brain barrier porous. Naval research studies going back to the 70s and 80s put dye in rats' brains and then gave them low-level EMF and showed the dye would just leak into the blood and vice versa from the blood into the brain, bypassing the blood-brain barrier by EMF fields. So toxic combination, fluoride, aluminum, and EMF fields. What the fluoride does is because it's so friendly and knows the aluminum so well, it'll pull it out of your bloodstream into your brain. And then the two mix together into your brain, causing little chemical reactions. And you don't want that. You don't want fluoride and aluminum in your brain mixing together. And then, messing with your synapses. So things to know: aluminum is in deodorant. Don't have aluminum in your deodorant. You can detox by, I'm a big fan of a lot of things, but recently I've learned about moss, yes, but horsetail. Horsetail, it grows in sand, and it's just this like prehistoric little plant that eats sand. We can't eat sand. Sand is like all silica, but this horsetail is this plant that ends up looking like a horsetail once it totally flowers afterwards. But as it grows, you can get these like supplements of it or tinctures of it or whatever, but it's 100% silica because all it does is just eat the sand. And the silica, when it's bioavailable and plant-based, it bonds to the aluminum, just like the fluoride bonds to the aluminum, but better, it bonds to the aluminum and can pull that aluminum out of your body. So
That's cool.
there's different ways to detox and mineralize. And
Yep.
Did I answer the question?
Yeah.
I'm responsible for that large tangent, but I figured that it was useful to make the connection, but we can go back to the original question if you guys want.
Yeah, so
the New Hampshire
Monsanto,
and
Yeah.
right.
well, we can discuss the Monsanto, whatever you want.
No, yeah, they have bees that are resistant. They have these patents on these products, so aluminum resistant and Frankenstein bees, aluminum resistant seeds, and when we get more and more aluminum, and then finally, so the timeline is this. I don't know exactly the timeline, but the normalization timeline is to the public that spraying aluminum in the sky is okay, right? So first it'll be salt, and then they'll be like maybe sulfur. Oh, actually, never mind. David Keith will prance, and then Greta and Al Gore will have a baby, and then that poster child will come out, and we'll all be like, "Oh, we gotta listen to this green baby because the baby will actually be green."
But they're already doing it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
they're
I know,
doing
but
it and
they're
they've been doing
already
it, but they
doing
just
it.
want the public to like be accepting and go, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then they could admit to it after that. Is that what it is?
Well, I think
Well, they're
they
not gonna admit
wanted
to
to
it. They're
say
never
they're
gonna admit.
starting it. That's what,
Right.
they'll never
Right.
admit that they've been doing
They're
it.
not
but
going to
they say,
retro admit it. They're just going to say, okay, now we're doing it from this point
Yeah.
forward when they've been doing it
Yeah.
all along.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Okay.
ignore all those memories and photos because this is
Yeah.
it. That
Yeah,
was
right.
Yeah.
Gaslight you. Yeah.
So the New Hampshire and Tennessee, this is very unpopular opinion, everybody, but I was asked the question and I'm going to answer the question from my heart. So for those that don't know, New Hampshire and Tennessee, quote unquote, passed bills to ban aerosol spraying, aka chemtrails, over their states.
So
Okay, crickets. Now, did the chemtrails stop spraying over the states? No, they did not.
Okay, good point.
So for one, states can't ban chemtrails. Number one, states can't ban chemtrails because this is way above state level. That's like
so is this all for appearance sake? Is this like the FDA or something? Like making it look like now there's
Regulation.
or a watchdog or something, or
I think it's
because something
could be that.
passed.
I think, yeah, something passed, and now people are like, "Oh, good! Now I don't need to get off my ass and be an activist, and I can wait." So here's the deal. Here's what I think. So what I like to do is literally put myself in these think tanks. So now we're in the evil think tank, right? And the evil think tank is like, well, first we're going to introduce geoengineering as an evil idea, and then we'll tell them diamond dust, and then we'll tell them aluminum, and then they'll say you're welcome. And it's like, but we have to like slowly spoon feed it to the masses, otherwise they'll pitchfork us, right?
Right.
So how are we going to do this? Well, if our plan is in 2030 to come out and say we're going to spray aluminum, you're welcome, we have to because the sea level rises and all this, and mind you, they're making heat waves. The sea levels aren't rising. Oh, an amazing documentary, Sand Wars.
Oh yeah.
It talks about like the sand mafias and how like sand is stolen and like there's erosion from like sand theft. Like it's a real thing. Because this beach sand is really important in construction of concrete and all this. Have you seen the movie? It's amazing.
I've actually followed that. Yeah, it's quite a fascinating thing to think that sand is like almost like a scarce product, and it's so important in production of concrete. I mean,
yeah, and it's scarce, which is wild because you can't use desert sand, and so there's like sand thieves that come and take all sorts of sand, and coastlines have erosion from it. And then people scream global warming, sea level rise, but your neighbor's not having it because their sand didn't get stolen. And meanwhile, other places don't have similar impacts, and like the sea levels aren't really rising. Like if you look at photos of the
1920s,
of the Statue of Liberty or whatever, right? But either way, we're in our evil think tank, and we're like, in 2030, we're gonna finally tell them that chemtrails are real, but we need to pacify them between now and then because they're waking up. Right? We've done all the psyops we can, and we've put it in the cartoons and the video games and but they're waking up still.
Like we can't pacify them until 2030. We got to do something.
Right. They're gonna pitchfork our ass. So let's just run some stuff through a couple states, and then people will be like, "Oh, we got a victory! Yay!" People will be excited about the legislation. They'll be excited about the passing. They'll be on social media sharing it around. But what does it really do? It buys them time. People think that they got some victory. They sit on their asses some more.
Yeah.
They don't.
So they're flat out lying. I mean, they're just flat out lying, like banning them and then doing nothing different. What's going to happen when people go outside and still see it? Like there it is again. And we take video and we take pictures. Like what?
Basically, the states are saying we're banning it from ever occurring while it's ongoing. They're not admitting that it's ongoing. They're not admitting that they're getting hosed day and night. They're saying, "Oh yeah, we banned this thing." It's just like in the UK, it's called taking the piss. It's like they're just taking the piss. They're just like throwing us a bone, and like I'm like, "Hey everybody, come to my rally. Hey everybody, let's go to this rally. Hey everybody, let's do this Frankenskies screening. We got to wake up our neighbors." And they're like, "No, they banned it. They banned it. We don't got to do anything." The politicians, my letters to my senator are working.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Come on, please. I know.
That's just my take.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
I know.
I'm glad I asked the question because another thing too,
like how
right
can people
after
be
Tennessee,
this stupid? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, Matt. Right after Tennessee, next article was, and when the Tennessee thing said they made chemtrails look like a bad, well, not necessarily, chemtrails look like a bad name, but then right after that, what's the next article? Minnesota's now pushing to ban chemtrails after Tennessee. Yeah, I thought
we got to
that's
keep
why I
the
wanted to
controlled
ask,
opposition going in order to create that confusion.
Yeah,
it's
I think
just
that's like
go ahead.
I don't mean to interrupt you. No, I totally agree with you. If you
Yeah.
follow, do you follow Jason Christoff?
Me, yes, I do.
I
He's
know you
great.
do, but do you,
Ian, I'm
Ian?
sure you do. He's out of Canada. Jason
Jason
Christoph, the
Well,
one who
Christoph?
was,
no, but he
standing
lives in
up for
Mexico now.
everything. And yeah, he lives in
He lives in
Mexico now, but
Acapulco,
I'll look him up.
right?
I
Or Puerto Vallarta.
Ian knows who he
Yeah.
is. He's just
okay, probably I
not
do.
by
I'm
name.
sorry.
You know my face.
Well,
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
this is
Yeah.
totally in his wheelhouse because that's what he talks about, the confusion.
On a
You
side
just
note, I
you,
did see people here in Wilmington at the Whole Foods, two older couples. They were wearing, I think it was harp hats, and they're like, yeah, we used to work for harp. Like they were so proud, we're saving the world. I was like, okay, you see it all out in society nowadays.
And here's another connection, of course, that the fact that they're leading up to the 2030 trying to push it is just, it's obviously tied into the whole climate change hoax, which is kind of one of the fundamental, reasons that they're
another thing.
Justifications, right?
Who would
Yeah.
believe it? Like, I just don't
I
understand who would
don't
believe
either.
this. Who would
Well, when you
believe
already
this?
know and your eyes are open, you tend to have that thing. It's like, how could you fall for that? Um, imagine in my field.
Especially after 2020.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's very few people at this point that would take another booster. Don't you think those
Mhm.
people wouldn't be that easy to find? It's not going to be like all the people that took the first one or the second one are going to take the sixth one or a seventh one. So you know that they're lying to you. Like, how can you? I just don't understand how you can.
The messaging is so powerful every day. They keep, even if they get a little bit of a inkling of something, and then they just keep bombarding you with the messaging,
Mhm.
day in, day out. If
They
they
do.
watch they keep
The repetition,
the
the TV
repetition of the
watching,
messaging. I see it. I
and
see
then
it
like the
because,
group pressure. If you
yeah, like,
identify as a Republican or a Democrat, like if you just think you're a Democrat, you have to do the Democrat things, like as
yes.
asinine as they are, to fit in with
Oh,
the other
Oh
Democrats.
man.
think
That's
it's
why they
very
want us all identifying and getting us into our little boxes. So we'll do what we're told
mhm.
to
You know what I
identify
think
with the group.
politics? I've narrowed it down. Let's talk about Dubai. I've narrowed down what politics now is in this country, and it's very spiritual, I think, and it's hatred. That's all it is. So if you're on one side, you hate Donald Trump, and if he gets elected, you're moving to Mexico. And if you're on the other side, you hate Joe Biden, and he like handed over Afghanistan a bunch of military, and he's a pedo and all this stuff. It's hate. And you're going to the voting booth to vote out of hatred. You don't like the other guy.
Emotion.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe people love Donald Trump, but either way, it's like literally there's just it's a hate fest. So I think
Yeah,
Good way of-
I agree with that.
the Dubai thing, if we can segue over there really quick,
Sure.
it seems like that this is a slow and steady back to the normalization of climate by design and engineering weather, which is interesting because I'd love them to talk about the hurricanes that keep hitting Florida and whatnot. It's like there's all these programs. There's the Hurricane Atmospheric Modification Program, HAMP, and they use drones during
Mhm.
Hurricane
Can
Katrina.
you say that again? I'm taking
H A
notes.
Oh man, you want to take notes? I got all sorts of stuff. HAMP, the Hurricane Atmospheric Modification Program, and black carbon soot was administered to the outer eye wall of Hurricane Katrina. I think they knew what they were doing. They claimed they didn't know that it was going to make it stronger, but they did, I think, and they even steered it. But while you're taking notes, which is fascinating, and we're
Can you
talking
explain
about
that though? Like, is there a naturally occurring hurricane that's happening all on its own, but they're just like kicking it up a notch? Or like, I don't explain that, or can you?
well,
Like with
there's
Katrina, for example.
with Katrina, they were putting carbon soot, like ash, in the outside of it to like strengthen it and give it like a
So
little
there was a
shell.
naturally occurring one that wasn't.
Um, there's a thing called Ascension Island. Ascension Island is in the Atlantic Ocean in the middle, and it's all like harp-looking things, and that's where the hurricanes start. So it's like I think that's where the hurricanes start, and
So they're maneuvering it all from the beginning.
they started from beginning to end,
Oh my gosh. That
and
I
that's
are there
something.
any naturally occurring ones? Could there ever just be a hurricane?
Yeah, sure, but can they dissipate them with lasers and stuff? Yes.
Mhm.
So like, um, is 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 any hurricane hitting landfall natural? Like, like they have the tools to steer them away from land. So anything that's doing damage is like
So
purposeful.
why
You
wouldn't
know what I
they?
mean?
Is what you're saying? Like, if there was a naturally occurring one, then they have the capabilities to stop it from hitting land and doing damage.
Mm.
Yeah,
But they're not
generally
doing that. They're
speaking,
doing the opposite.
yeah, they're juicing them up and steering them,
Oh,
and St. Petersburg, Florida, it seems like, in Tampa, it's like
Yeah.
my grandmother lives there, and there's like Treasure Island, Florida's right there, and the rumor locally is that it's Indian burial ground. And that's why the storms always glitch and go around that area. But that's where all the billionaire elites live, so the hurricanes just never go. They like literally like beaming, like going straight for it, and then they'll glitch out of the way because they have the control
what
right there on
Treasure Island
situations.
in
It's like,
Florida? So you said
yeah, St. Pete, yeah.
St. Pete.
But they say that Treasure Island is the Indian burial ground. So while you're
Oh.
taking notes, and this is a very important puzzle piece, this is something else. There's this thing called the Tropospheric Aerosol Program, TAP. So, Allyson and Ian, I know you all are smart. I mean, Mark, you too, but we've talked about
No,
stuff
that's
like
fine. Yeah.
the Tropospheric Aerosol Program. Okay, and this is like rabbit hole galore. It came out in 2001, right before 9/11. It's like August, or no, summer. Doesn't matter. It was right before 9/11, the year of 9/11, and it was a document, right? But it's hidden in plain sight. It doesn't have the word contrail, chemtrail in it, but it outlines this program, the Tropospheric Aerosol Program out of the DOE, Department of Energy. So, firstly, the Department of Energy in the series Stranger Things, everybody ended up watching that show, right? I mean,
saw
I don't
some of
know,
it.
Allyson,
I
you're
saw some of
outside,
it.
just even though you're in Maine snowshoeing, you're still watching that one. So I'm just kidding. I'm just playing. You're probably lobster hunting. And, I'm also kidding. I like playing with stereotypes. But anyways, they demonized. So whenever I'm out doing street outreach, I'm telling people there's chemtrails. They want to dim the sun, and people that are normies, they'll revert back to their programming, and they'll say, "Oh, you mean like the Matrix?" Or, "Oh, you mean like Seymour Burns? What's his name? Burns, Simpsons, Montgomery
No.
Burns,
Montgomery
right?"
Burns. Yeah.
Yeah. So they revert back to these programs, especially the Matrix. In the Matrix, they tried to dim the sun, block out the sun, stop the robots, but they just got the humans and made them into batteries or whatever. But they have this programming of that's what it would look like if humans tried to block the sun, and that it's just sci-fi, right? But it's not, right? So the Tropospheric Aerosol Program, where am I going with all this? Oh my gosh. Okay, so it's very deep. Huh?
So it was right before 9/11. It was in summer
Yeah,
2001.
hurricanes, 9/11. No, okay. So
Right?
Stranger Things, they demonize Department of Energy, making it fiction. So then when you come to the normies in the real world, and you're like, actually, the Department of Energy is the one behind it. They're the ones doing the chemtrails, them and NASA. It's like, people don't want to hear that. They're like, NASA, those are my friends. They're going to take me to Mars. So the Department of Energy, which is dirty energy, right? Elon Musk is my buddy. He's gonna give me robotic arms and limbs. And
there you go.
Oh my gosh! Just to segue. Okay, just we're gonna. I'll make a little note what we're talking about.
I'm already forgetting.
So Elon Musk is like the modern day Total Recall, the movie Total Recall from 1990, and in Total Recall. Yeah, right? In Total Recall, he gets a chip in memory in his head that he went to Mars. He didn't actually go to Mars. He just gets
Oh my God,
memory.
I have to watch this movie.
And Elon Musk is like in charge of Neuralink and SpaceX and going to Mars. And people are just going to end up with this like memory implant in their head. They're not really going to be going anywhere. But okay, so back to Department of Energy. So people through Stranger Things think that the Department of Energy being the big boogeyman is just fantasy because of the series. But it's very fascinating because if you look into this deep enough, the chemtrailers are the Department of Energy. And how does this make any sense? Okay, well, they know they're the evil boardrooms coming together, and dirty energy, the Department of Energy is ExxonMobil and coal, right? You're talking like trillionaires that run the world with dirty energy. Okay. And they're like, okay, well, how are we going to enslave humanity and keep our little game going? and they're like, okay, we'll come up with this like green movement. Okay, well, let's control it. We'll control opposition it then, right? Hire Greta, hire Al Gore. But what's the end game? Well, we're going to tell them that the only way for them to continue driving their cars and using their stuff is we have to dim their sun. So they're going to control both ends. Let us keep using our cars, but also be the ones in charge of dimming the sun and stuff. It's asinine and backwards. It's like, why would they be the ones behind it? But if you start looking into what they're spraying, it's coal fly ash. So the coal burning power plants needed to do something with their crap that was not supposed to be spewed in the sky. So they figured out another way to spew it in the sky. So they got this tropospheric aerosol program, Department of Energy document. It outlines all of it. The whole program's launched in 2001. And in the back appendix, they have this pie chart, and they spend $5 million on risk assessment and detection diversion, like so the public doesn't find out what we're doing. Like literally, it's all right there. They have a fleet of planes and drones and stations and all that, and they're gonna spray this troposphere, manage the spraying of the troposphere. Like, why would they do that? It's because they know that there's gonna be this finger being pointed at them, and there's gonna need to be the solution, which is actually the problem.
It's the problem reaction solution thing.
Yeah, because there is no problem. Greenhouse gases.
They made the problem
with geoengineering, right? So they're not really doing the problem with the dirty energy. They're making these heat waves and steering around weather systems and making tornadoes and all these things. Like climate change now is crazy hurricanes, crazy tornadoes, crazy drought. That's geoengineering and being engineered. So they're making this fear-based campaign so they can sell us geoengineering, which they're perfecting by doing it to us all the time. And it's them, the boogeyman, the whole time. Crazy. So that's happening. Look up that. So what do y'all think happened in Dubai?
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know about that, to be honest with you. I don't, you're going to have to fill me in.
The headlines were like, Dubai just got flooded because they engineered the rain. So everybody's like,
Cloud City.
When was it? In April? I don't watch news. I mean, I know you don't either, but you see it somehow. Well, you're into the
I saw the article.
movement,
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of viral videos of just like even malls that were like flooded, you know, streets, cars floating down the street in Dubai.
Can I just say
think they would probably overkill on that. Maybe they don't have all that amount of control, and when they start to try to play with it, and it's like a tipping point at some point. You know, like they how much control do they actually have? Sometimes that's why you have these extreme weather contrasts. Sometimes in North America, when they're playing with the jet streams and moving masses of precipitation from one area to another. So one area has a drought, and then another area has like torrential rains, and just this unbalance that you can sometimes see that would seem to be the result of an unnatural process. Combining HARP with the massive amounts of aerosol spraying.
Just made me think of that because Obama has that production company. That movie he came out with, I forget what it's called. I didn't even see it.
Leave the World Behind.
Yeah, but his production company is called Higher Ground, which makes it sound like they're trying to flood us out.
That's a good connection there. Yeah, considering
somebody else I watched pointed that out.
Well, in that movie too, and I think Matt, you might have had a post on it, or I might have shared it out even myself. They said that Baltimore Bridge was in Leave the World Behind. Now, I did sit through that pathetic movie. It was not in there whatsoever. And I had friends tell me who had friends watch it and said, no, it was not in there. So there'll also be truthers making things up too, as we all know.
Yeah, there's a big counter. Everything was psyop during that bridge nonsense. I saw a lot of counter narratives, and there's been so much. It's the way that things get so spun out on social media. There are bots. There are people that are paid to be disinformation artists, and then there are people that are just falling in line and kind of honestly, they think that they're sharing truth, but they're not. And there's just so much. I think that like not to like sound too crazy, but the CIA loves every opportunity to divide us more, to
Oh,
make
yeah.
the conspiracy theorists
Distract
look
us and
crazy.
divide us.
Yeah, distraction, divide, until we get to the point where you meet someone on the street and they want to label you first freaking thing and be like, oh, you're a chemtrail flat earther. I'm not going to listen to anything you say. And it's like, hey, don't put me in a box until you meet me there, Susie.
I love it.
Go get your 18th
Yeah.
booster, Susie.
How's it in Maine and Montreal regarding masks? I got probably, I was talking to my grocery store clerk
Yeah.
today and I was like, give me a percentage. I was like, how many people you go through in a day? He says he goes through 200 people in a day and 2%. He said like it's around 2%. I was trying to count people. Like if I go into the grocery store and there's 30 people, there's 3 people with a freaking mask on. So like at least I'm thinking it's around 10% of my
That's
grocery
about
store
right.
has it.
Yeah, I think it's it's definitely up here in Montreal. It's probably hovering around, below 10%, but I think it's definitely maybe between 5 and 10%. But it's interesting because I was visiting my dad this evening in the hospital, and when I was on the 8th floor and got on the elevator, there's another guy that got on the elevator and he's taking off his mask. He says, "Do we really have to wear these masks?" And we got into the discussion and say,
He
"Yeah,
said
they
no.
still got some mask Nazis out there. They're still trying to, the nurse was imposing it upon him, but there's no, but it definitely is still quite, it's ingrained in people, and walking down the streets, people still driving their car wearing a mask."
I think I saw it once out
Myself.
here, but not that many people wearing masks in North Carolina. We do
Yeah.
have what is interesting, Matt, is that we get a lot of rain here. I would say, maybe like 200 days a year, we get rain, and we haven't had that much in a long time in Wilmington. We
Interesting.
usually get the end of the hurricanes because, it goes through Florida and then it just ends in North Carolina. I mean, there's only been a couple times when I've driven through, rain where it's not visible. I haven't been in like windstorms or anything. They did cancel school once a while back and send everyone home from work early, but that's about it.
I was in the Netherlands recently. Another topic. I was just in the Netherlands and I saw 0 people with a mask on. I was in Scotland for like a week, and I was in the 2 major cities and in the countryside and all this stuff. And we saw one couple, and they're definitely tourists. So I didn't see a single Scottish person
Awesome.
the entire
So, like,
trip.
Good.
Okay, I never got to weigh in, but I'll see maybe one person. Probably if I go to the grocery store at any given time, I might see one person. So we're not like Canada. There's no way. We're not 5 or 10%. It's probably more like the 1%, 2% or something like that. But do you think in Europe they're more awake? Do they all know
Yeah.
that the government's corrupt over there? Like, and have they known way longer than Americans?
Look at the upper, like the massive
From the beginning.
protests that they've had.
Berlin, France, you name it,
Yeah, they're like Belgium.
But even before like fake COVID, were they more like was there a big population of people that didn't even watch news, even like say 2018, 2019, where they just were like, no, the government's corrupt. Like apparently that's what it's like in Mexico. Like nobody even listens to the government in Mexico. No one. I shouldn't say nobody, but I'm just curious. I've never been to Europe, so.
They're definitely more aware. I think it's because culturally they talk to each other more and they're more tight knit and there's more family values. When I first came onto the chemtrail scene, there was a Swedish politician, Pernilla Hagberg. She was talking vocal about chemtrails. Also, Berlin seemed to be very vocal about chemtrails before anybody in the world was talking about that. To end my story, when I came back, I had a little layover in Seattle. I get off the plane and it was like entering into a zombie apocalypse after being in Europe for like a week. I came to Seattle. Right when I get off the plane, they're asking me to take a test, to take a swab and stick it up my nose.
Oh,
That?
geez, I'm not surprised.
When was
In
that?
Seattle, yeah.
So
Couple
when?
weeks ago. Couple weeks ago,
ago?
hon. Yes,
That is
they said
Are they
they
on
said
another
we want.
planet over there?
Avoid
This is what I'm
Seattle
saying.
at all costs.
They said they wanted to track the new variant. And I look at
Yeah,
them like,
no
I just
thanks.
went through all these airports, all these cities. Like I literally, you know, people watching all these places. Like in Seattle, it was like a
I'll
third of
stay
the
away
people
from
wearing
that
masks.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild
So
the
they're just they're
differences.
crazy libs there.
Jeez.
They're just absolutely out
Yeah,
of their minds.
they are.
Off the place.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I don't like to put people in boxes, but it is
Well,
No,
very
sorry.
I can
I don't know
attest.
what
No,
I'm
else to.
telling you,
you're right. No,
my
you're right.
experience.
It is. It's what. Well, I mean, I was talking to my girlfriend about this the other day about like what it is it means to be conservative, because conservative, whatever, you know, all these things.
These
But
labels, yeah.
yeah, these labels, it's very weird. But the United States is super divided, and this different states. I mean, the difference between Idaho, which borders Washington, you know what I mean? It's like it's night and day. Are we gonna go all over? Should we talk about this election? You guys want to talk about the election real quick?
That's go for
I'm
it.
interested to get your
Why
perspectives on
not?
what
You know,
obviously
I get it, Matt. I get it all the time on TikTok, standing with TikTok, and I even get what's funny is when I speak, I don't get silent because you were taken off of TikTok, but I'll get a community guidelines violation if I make something on Canva that says like stand for humanity, standing against globalists. They don't, but if I'm speaking, they'll push it out. But if I put like a Canva thing, you know, it'll get a community guidelines violation or something, which I've gotten a couple of those. So
I'm looking up the name of the movie. I think it's 2,000 Mules, 200 Mules.
oh
What is it?
yes,
2,000 Mules.
okay.
2000 Mules. Yeah, that was the one they did for the election fraud. Was pretty well documented. They did a lot of they collected a lot of evidence then, and I didn't watch the whole film, but I saw clips of it. It looked pretty compelling.
So I'm gonna go back to my evil boardroom for a minute.
Yeah.
This movie was on Amazon, and it was seen by a lot of people. A lot of people saw this movie. All right. And Allyson, the premise of this movie that went all over the place was that absolutely guaranteed that the mail-in election was fraudulent, that Trump probably won some states or whatever, that Biden stole the election. Right. We're back to this.
Just keeping the division going, it's hilarious, almost just hilarious.
Right. So in a perfectly censored world where Matt Landman can't post a chemtrail video on TikTok or his whole platform gets removed, how does a video of this nature go viral?
Yeah, on Netflix.
Because it's controlled up.
While Biden is president of the United States.
Yeah,
Okay?
exactly. That should clue you in right there if you're thinking it all.
To me, it makes me think that they really want to divide the crap out of everybody and kind of like shake this you know, the metaphor of like you put the ants in the jar and the red ants and the black ants are chilling until you shake it up, right? And then they start fighting each other. I think they really want to get us. I don't know if we're staged for any sort of like civil unrest this election, but definitely the Biden and the Trump people hate each other more than I've ever seen in the US.
What a joke. It's such a joke.
But we've
Probably
talked about it too, Matt.
It
It's
seems
so obvious
staged, though.
that
Doesn't it
Trump's
seem
going to win.
staged?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They've been so effective at just amplifying that polarization, and it's happening here in Canada as well. I mean, it's just they just continue to polarize as much as they can and antagonize both groups against each other.
But Matt, let me ask you something.
There's
Do you
people that
think
like
it'll
Trudeau?
Yeah. But Matt, do you think it'll be different because both sides voted for this TikTok ban? A lot of youth are pissed off. They're at doing the peaceful protesting, not what CNN and Fox are saying, that they're doing the anti-Semitic protesting and all that. Do you think that'll make a difference in this? But we know it's all rigged. But do you think that'll make a difference in people in November?
I think that on the table for I don't think it'll make too much of a difference, but I think
because it's all rigged anyway. So I guess I shouldn't have even asked the question, but
yeah, it's all rigged, and I mean, it gets pretty deep. Okay, like I don't think we won World War II. I think that we've had this long infiltration of our, paperclip, where MK Ultra and NASA got formed. These infiltrators have continued World War II, and it never ended. And infiltration of Hollywood,
Operation
and Mockingbird, mind control, all this stuff. And so how does the CIA break up other countries, right? It went into the USSR and armed Afghanistan and got, created a civil war, right? And now Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, all these countries are not part of the USSR, and it got dismantled. It looks like that's what's happening here. And I think that possibly this election, there will be a state that's like, no, we don't agree with the fact that Trump is president. We don't buy that. The system is flawed. We're actually not going to be a Trump state, because California is like so radical right now. It is crazy, you guys. So I'm on the West Coast. I know you got out of here, right? You were in Arizona.
I did. I was there for 12 years. Yeah.
And you're in California. It is so. I'm in Oregon, which is very.
Well, I was part of the agenda, Matt. That's why I left Hollywood. I mean, I was doing it as a side job, these TV shows, and then when it was tearing down statues, there was actually one with Jeremy Piven. You know Jeremy Piven, right? PCU. He was what was that big one that he was part of on Entourage?
PCU is great.
Yeah, Entourage. Anyways, it was called Wisdom of the Crown. And we're at MacArthur Park, which is shithole city, part of my French shithole city of LA. And it says, and I have the picture, I'll send it to you. It says, this is a riot scene for CBS's Wisdom of the Crown. And I have the actual voucher from Central Casting that says white nationalist. And I'm like, no, I'm not playing this game. I'm like, this is just stupid. I'm like, this is ridiculous. It's all programming. It's nuts.
Why would people even vote? It's just
No, we
so
don't. Well,
stupid.
the three of us don't.
No, I know
vote,
you're not going to. I know we're not going to. But it's just they like it. It's like they're addicted to it.
They are.
They're
Oh, yeah.
addicted to it. It's a sickness.
Yeah.
You're listening to
It
these
really
crazy tranny celebrities and like
Yeah.
Do y'all know the movie and series Handmaid's Tale?
yeah.
Oh,
I
that
haven't
one,
watched it, but I've heard. Yeah.
So in that, the premise is that there's like a civil war in the United States, and the only currency is fertility, because there's been such a huge fertility drop because of likely 5G and inoculations or whatever. It's a dystopian future. But in the movie, the premise is that California has seceded, that they've pulled away, and they can't, and the country's fighting because of that, and the rest of the country can't get a lot of produce now because California could really sustain themselves if you think about it. You know what I mean? But they're so liberal, and people are so on board being anti-Trump that, like, imagine this. California always goes blue, right? Imagine it went red and the whole state was like, no, we're not buying that. We're going to stay blue, and we're not going to be Trump. We're not doing that. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's this election, but this is in the cards. This is like part of the game to dismantle us and divide us up and keep us so distracted that we can't rally together and raise awareness surrounding chemtrails and have those chemtrail protests and bring the consciousness, rising like we did for the Monsanto and all that, because it's a different time now. Things are getting really sped up. There's so many agendas happening all at once, and our heads are on a swivel at this point. And there's like psyops amongst it all, and people are struggling.
Like financially, if you can't even like pay the bills and you're having trouble feeding your family and making the rent and stuff, you can't reach the higher levels of consciousness to fight the man or something. Like you're just scraping by. So
this is the reality. Canada is gone. How much
you were telling me last time you were on too. Yeah, Ian.
It's gotten so bad here that the cost of living, because they just put in a new carbon tax, 23% increase. You could just see it just like shoot up right away. People can't eat. They're making choices. They can no longer pay their mortgage. They go out. They can't even pay afford to pay rent anymore. They're moving in their vans. These are people that have just a normal living, a nurse, a carpenter, whatever.
Like a middle class type person.
Oh, they're just they've been so successful in destroying the economy, spending like out of control spending, billions of dollars going to Ukraine, and it just keeps going on and on. It is such a circus up here in Canada, you can't even imagine.
But do you do you wonder what you don't even know what they're really doing? Like somebody might be saying they're sending money to Ukraine. They might be sending
on purpose.
But you know what I
That's
mean? Like they could be sending nothing to Ukraine. Like we have no clue just
oh yeah,
because,
from
you
that
know what
point
I
of view,
mean?
you're right. Yeah, because
Mhm.
that's a big black hole of
Who
like
knows what the hell they're doing with any of the money?
it could
We're
be coming
trillions of
Yeah,
back,
dollars in
good
debt. It's like,
right?
who
point.
knows about anything?
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
all lies. But
But
what we do know is that everything is very expensive and nobody can afford anything.
yes,
So
yeah, cost of living is pretty crazy. People are like at their wits end here. The number of 10, like you have 10 cities in near California and other cities,
Yeah.
but here the first time in like a city like Halifax, they have a tent city. And a lot of
oh,
them are
tent
immigrants that
city.
come here. Immigrants coming here who think they have a better chance are discovering that they're ending up in these tent cities, and then they just said, "Forget it, I'm going back home."
That's so
There's like
sad.
a migration of people going to Costa Rica and different
Mhm.
places, just getting out of Canada because now they have this new the budget just came out and they're putting this new they're increasing the capital gains tax
Mhm.
on, they call it the 1% or 0.1%, but actually it's the middle class because all the boomers now that are growing old and are about to sell their homes, well, that capital gains tax is going to hit them, and it's this massive like scam that they're just trying to get money because they've been spending it like crazy, in the past few years without any control, and so the inflation is well,
I
inflation is, they say it's under control, but actually it's no one can afford anything here,
Mhm.
basically.
I don't think it's that they need the money. They need you to not have the money. They have all the money.
Mhm.
They can make
Yeah,
money
they
out of
do.
Oh,
thin air. They
absolutely.
don't need
Oh,
any
agree.
money. It's
Yeah,
it's
No.
it's just yeah,
yeah.
they're trying to take your money away from you. They're trying to make you
Oh,
dirt
and the tax
poor.
rate up here, you would literally, you would have you kind of like 50% if you follow the rules for above a hundred three a 6-digit salary above.
Mhm.
It's they really want to make it into a communist country. They're not. The
And people
Christine,
aren't fighting back. There's
well,
no
there
fighting
there
back.
is there is a pot. They're all across the country. There are like the freedom groups that were born out of the freedom convoy. They're very active all the time, and
Mhm.
there is a large undercurrent of people that are normally quiet that are speaking out. I mean, there is like kind of this mass shift going on. You can see it just like in the polls. I mean, it's like you take it with a grain of salt, but um, they went too far with the carbon tax, basically.
Mhm.
And then they started to give preferential treatment because they were going to lose votes out in Nova Scotia. So they gave them a break, but not the rest of the country. So it's like, how could you, like, it's just, they open themselves up to like undermining their own agenda. But it's getting to a fever point where people are so fed up with all the scandals that are going on up here. It's
Mhm.
unbelievable. Day after day, and this Teflon like man-child tyrant is just, he's able to, like, he's still evading and a real kind of justice, and that's what the system is meant to do, is to protect these
Mhm.
people because they're the chosen ones. They're
Oh
the
yeah.
WF status and so forth.
Mhm.
Even Klaus Schwab said, we have penetrated, we are very proud of the new generation of politicians, and in particular Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. We've managed to penetrate his cabinet, and there's more than 50% that are part of the WEF. Like, they just put it out there, right? Because
Yeah.
Canada is a model that they're trying to use to destroy the economy, implement draconian, like these censorship laws that are coming in are absolutely off the charts. Like it, and they're talk about like these climate extremists. You have activists like Stephen Guilbeault, who is part of the Minister of Environmental the environment, and you know what he said? He says, "Well, we don't want to build any more roads in Canada either." He said that in a country that is as vastly spread out and has so much rural. He actually said that. He had to backtrack that and just, no, that was, we meant in Quebec because they're going to be building a Quebec highway between Quebec and Lévis South Shore, and well, they're not going to go ahead with that. That's what we were referring to. That's not what he's referring to, but
I think Jason had the right idea of moving. I do
Yeah.
too.
Once you see his
Sounds
face,
awful.
Ian, you'll know exactly who Jason Christoph is. I know
Yeah,
it for a
I'm sure.
fact.
I'm drawing a blank, but I'm sure when I'm going to look him up after this, and
I think
I'm
he
sure.
was from, where was he from? Cornwall, Ontario? One of those cities.
I think so.
Yeah, it's not far from Montreal.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, sorry for the rant, but it just to tie in with our discussions. Canada is basically a model. Okay, they're
Mhm.
trying to implement as much as possible in terms of the trans agenda. It's out of control, in schools and with crashing the economy, implementing. I cannot read Canadian news on Facebook. Did you know that? If they have
Yeah.
so they implemented this because they were trying to get the big tech companies to pay money if to pay for if they're posting a CBC report on their application on their
Mhm.
platform. Of course, they just said no, we're not going to pay you a bloody cent, and we're going to block you now. So that's what they did. So I can't get Canadian news for example, on Facebook. I can get it elsewhere, but they actually block it there.
That sounds like a psyop. Why would you want to read it? Crap, anyway.
No, but I'm just saying that
They
it
might have done
also
you a
affects
favor.
alternative
Yeah.
news. I can't get alternative news now through
Oh.
it, but I don't depend on it. Believe me, Allyson.
Oh, alternative news. Okay.
I
I
have.
thought you were trying to read the regular news. I'm like, you don't need it anyway.
Oh gosh,
No,
bloody
the media
so
up there,
bad up
well,
here in
media here
CBC.
too
It's
is
like
awful.
it makes it makes North Korea they're probably looking at it and say, how do you guys are doing a pretty good job. Wow.
We're the news now. We're the news. This is the news.
Well, we
Yeah.
are. I mean, look at
Right here.
look at what do you
Exactly.
call it?
Yeah.
TikTok. You get so much information on there. I know Matt's like wasting your time. I've heard your posts on, wasting your time, spending your time to the screen on TikTok. And I'm with you 100%, but I got like things where, and the algorithm is so wicked that I found this I think she's in her 20s. This girl, she lives in the remote part of Vietnam. She has fresh food. She grows her own stuff. She's doing the videos of her farming and her, green tea and making real salad, not making fun. It's just incredible. The people that you're connecting with across the world on that platform.
Yeah, it's worth it. I'm just bitter I got my channel pulled. I was into it.
No, I am
till
too,
then.
and yeah, one of my videos did get pulled because in the middle of it, I put like a 2-second chemtrail thing. They're spraying the skies, went up, and yeah, they said no, we don't allow this. It took them like 2.5 days, but
They banned the hashtag. There's no hashtag for chemtrails.
they got
But
rid
with
of you and
the
Cultivate Elevate, the other Matt.
Is that
Oh,
also
really?
on
Still there
Instagram?
actually though,
Is
with
that
his shorts.
is
Mm.
that banned on Instagram?
He can't talk about chemtrails. But what they did to me, and we've been going long enough. Sorry to keep you guys so long. But what they did to me on Instagram, and I was talking to Allyson, is they you know how you can search? Like I would search up your account, right? I can no longer search. It's now Ask Meta AI. So you just type, I'll try to type in your account and it'll say Ask Meta AI, or if you type in chemtrails or whatever, Ask Meta AI. Ask Meta AI will give you their narrative. They won't give you any videos, posts, anything. Your narrative for that, and then you'll say to them, "I didn't ask you anything," and they'll say, "I know I didn't. I know. Oh, I'm sorry. I know you didn't ask me." They won't even. They've dismantled me, and I'm not a million person account. They dismantled me from looking anything up on Instagram.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That on Allyson on Instagram there is a hashtag for chemtrails still, but on TikTok they never allowed one, so you never could have the
Oh.
hashtag chemtrails. But then people got creative and they did use hashtag Frankenskies, which I was really
Oh,
Ooh,
nice. Okay, yeah.
there's
honored.
always a workaround.
Yeah, if you
Okay.
look on there, there's like a couple. There's a lot. I forget. I think it
Mhm.
was like hundreds of thousands of it that people use that. So I felt good about
Yeah.
that one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
good.
totally.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Well, anyways, we've been going, long enough. But this was a great episode. I'm glad that everyone connected, and
Mhm.
raised awareness on chemtrails.
well,
Me
it's
too.
Yeah.
much appreciated. I
It's
just
really
wanted to
nice to
throw
meet
in.
you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
likewise. It's a pleasure, honor to meet you both, and I always very privileged to be part of these podcasts. I just wanted to throw in one more interesting thing. Like I said, since Canada is really on the edge of the model of what they're trying to achieve. So there's a small island in the province of Quebec. It's called the Ile de Madeleine. All right. So they just passed a law where you have to have a QR code to enter or leave that island.
Wow.
They're also trying to do this in Venice during the peak tourist period. So you can see where they're trying to, this is how they're
Oh, I
trying to
saw
do
the
it.
Venice thing. I saw the article on the Venice. Yeah.
That's kind of the latest, anyways, what they're trying to do in Canada. And Montreal being an island, I wouldn't be surprised if they're gonna work towards, Montreal as a next step, because it's an island and it's easy to kind of control the entering and leaving. Anyway.
Do you all like, Allyson, do you like dystopian movies?
Sure. Do you have
Have
a
you seen-
suggestion?
The movie In Time it's got Justin Timberlake, but it's
Oh.
like
In time or end?
in time.
In
Yeah,
time.
and
Okay.
it's like the
In time.
QR codes to get into different cities and stuff like that.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
basically that. It's basically that. Have you seen that one, Mark?
No, I'll have to check it out. But one
Is
thing
it old?
Oh man.
Is it old?
Well, Timberlake is
2011,
like,
it says here. Is that right?
yeah.
One thing I
2011?
will say though, that Sandboars, it's not available. I tried watching it on my Fire Stick, and no streaming platform. It says it comes up and it says not available.
They're getting you. Go buy it. Go buy the
I'll have to
DVD.
buy it online. Yeah.
Yeah. I own DVDs. I do
Nice.
all
Okay,
this old
yeah.
I
You
do
could have your
all
own
the old
library.
things. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do. I went really crazy with I got color
nice.
coordinated over here. So during COVID, I hate to say that word. I hope I didn't just ruin
fake
everything
COVID.
for the whole show.
I say fake COVID.
I just don't even, I say lockdowns because it's a censoring word.
Yeah.
There you
Fake
go.
When it happened, I had a girlfriend with 2 kids, and it was March 2020, and the libraries got shut, Barnes and Noble got shut, bookstores got shut, and we had no access to like books for the kids or for anybody.
Mhm.
And it was like only what we could remember in our heads, and then we could go on Amazon and look for it. But like, for instance, the movie The Network, great movie. If you guys haven't seen that one.
Oh yeah.
The movie
I
The
know.
Network, I had been like told to watch it. So I go online and it's like, oh, it's only available on Amazon. So I'm like, all right, fine, I'll go watch it on Amazon Prime if I have to. I go on Amazon Prime, it wasn't there. I kept looking.
Who's
I
in
kept
that?
looking.
Wow.
Is it Robert Redford, or who's in that?
1976, eh?
Are you talking about
Yeah.
Robert Duvall?
Satirical
Yeah.
black
Network,
comedy
yeah.
kind of film.
Yeah.
So it's
excellent.
Robert Duvall, and who else is in it? I've heard of it.
I don't
but-
know, Allison.
Oh.
Yeah, no,
Come
Robert
on!
Duvall is the man.
I'm just
I've
kidding.
seen it,
It's
yeah.
just him. It's just him. And
Yeah,
he's
there
just
we
him.
go.
He-
A one man.
It is.
Solo.
No, he's like the
A
only main
one-man
person in there.
movie.
And it's very inspirational, whatever. But it's like what happened with that movie
Cool.
was
I gotta watch it.
I couldn't find it. And like I went on different browsers and I was trying to find it, and then there it was. And I clicked and there it was on Amazon Prime. But I couldn't search it on Amazon Prime. I searched it through Amazon Prime. It wasn't there. I found on the internet, it's only available on Amazon Prime. So what they had done is they bought it and then they swept it under the rug, just like when like electric cars come out and
yeah.
GM buys the patents and then,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
only gas cars for another 2 decades or whatever. That movie is really good and inspiring and gets people thinking outside the box, but you couldn't really even find it. So I got so sketched out during COVID and I was like, I'm going to buy up every single truth or book that I could possibly
Sure.
imagine.
Yep, I did too.
Every DVD. I have a challenge that my library is better than yours.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Oh yeah.
I try to get
sure.
every single one, Behold a Pale Horse, every single thing, like Gerson Therapy, like Cymatics book, like Paramagnetism, like every single thing that I could possibly, because I figure Amazon Kindle is like kindling, like book burning.
Yeah.
And we're going to end up not having access.
Or if they don't get rid of the book altogether, they can just take out lines or change.
Yeah, they've been doing
change
that
titles,
across the
change
years.
chapters.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Behold
They
a
even
Pale
did
Horse
that with-
lost a chapter.
What was it?
Behold a Pale Horse by William
Oh,
Cooper. It lost a
So William
chapter.
Cooper, yeah.
see,
Zionism.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the true ones, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, it's important to get physical things, and there could be an EMP to wipe out DVDs and all that sort of stuff. But books for the win. I think it's very important, and I love the dystopian movies. It's too bad that no good movies come out anymore. So all the movies are
No, they're all remakes too.
I can't believe it. Yeah, I have this whole theory that we're on like a hijacked timeline, all that sort of stuff. We can talk about that later because
Ooh,
Satan
sounds
can
good.
only like copy and invert and can't create his own, you know? And that's why we're like on sequel number 20 of everything, and like there's nothing new coming out because I think we're living on in a satanic hijacked like kind of timeline.
Well, when you
It's
come
not-
back, Matt, we'll have to the four of us will have to get back together and
You're gonna
do
write
a
that
part
down.
2.
Yeah, I would love that. That'd be great. And it was really nice meeting you all, Allyson and Ian. It's really
Yeah,
cool to
you too.
Really,
get
yeah.
everyone together.
Oh yeah.
This was really fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much everyone for listening.